Fear and Loathing is one of the great titles. Did that come to you suddenly, or did someone suggest it? What's the history of Fear and Loathing?
I ran into it last night in a 1969 letter. It's a good phrase, for one. I'd never seen it before or heard it. People have accused me from stealing it from, what, Kierkegaard or something? Shit, I don't think he was ever that good to come up with a phrase like that in that way.
Stendhal.
Stendhal? No, I didn't hear it from anybody. It just seemed like the right phrase. First time I intentionally used it was Vegas for a title, Fear and Loathing. And once you get that kind of title down, and once you see it on paper, there's no way you're going to change it unless you're a complete asshole.
The American Dream was to be called that until you changed the whole structure of the original?
I think the Vegas book was just really a desperate attempt to get off the hook for that American Dream, the death of. In fact, everything I came across was part of the same story.
You remember when you changed the Death of the American Dream into the half novel? You remember when you did it? Actually, you write Silverman a little bit about it. It's quite remarkable when you do decide that. It's an epiphany, isn't it?
Yeah, but not one that anybody or I arranged or anything like that.
I think you write it, doesn't he? Listen, I've just figured out how to do it. Is that more or less what you're saying?
Yeah, it's like...
I know how to do it. It's almost an exclamation.
Well,
when you were trying from '68, covering Democratic Convention, all these things, trying to look for the American Dream, and suddenly that idea of mixing Raoul Duke with that, Vegas story became, they both came together.
yeah, it was a moment of epiphany, but I can't remember what it was.
We should start with Raoul Duke, because maybe when we do this interview, how did the alter ego come about, and why, and when?
Oh, like I keep coming across it in the letters. Discussed, dissected. Yeah, I discussed it in letters to Silverman in '69. If maybe that would be the right thing. I know this, and I was cutting him last night. I was into the book with Dr. Chuck.
It might be useful for you to describe yourself.
Well, he looks a little bit like Lieberman. Yeah, it is nondescript for sure. Small, thin, quiet. According to Jan, a brutally thieving person. Yeah, seriously, according to Jan, Silverman is the guy who really got off with those 17,000 books.
But that's what I thought might be useful.
Well, I'm glad you said that. Because
also Eden Valentine would be
yeah, but these were hardcover books.
He used the idea that was moving slowly forward, the death of the American Dream. The correspondence is wonderful about that. We already talked about that. But so he was your editor at Random House, and you kept writing him about how this book was having its difficulty. You couldn't seem to move it, and then all of a sudden there's this letter talking about Las Vegas. And could you talk about the genesis of how it became from one to the other? Raoul Duke, you so wrote him on that. Well, first of all,
I started using him originally as like when I wrote for Scanlon's, and I would review weapons, police weapons, just like I would do drugs.
You and you yourself, you'd use this alter ego.
Yeah,
would do,
yeah. When I was Hunter Thompson, I was the chief magistrate of Woody Creek, as far as they were concerned. That's where a lot of my equipment and my invitations and information came from. The latest gas on the market.
What's the name derived from, Raoul Duke?
Yes, Raoul comes from Castro's brother. And Duke, I don't know. I don't know when I started using it before, yeah. Probably on something like false registration at a hotel or
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. It all comes from criminal instinct somehow.
Why, as a writer, or did you think about that your life as a writer, why did you go to Vietnam?
The war has been so much a part of my life for so long. More than 10 years. I've been beaten and gassed for it.
You've been what?
Beaten and gassed, and the society over here had pretty much gotten into which side are you on. And I was clearly on the other side. I just wanted to see it, be a part of the end of it. Yeah,
Did it make you a better writer?
Well, not at the time, because I didn't have a chance to write that much. I was just really writing, sort of pretending I was working.
You mean you just kept notebooks and tapes without writing very much about what you saw and felt?
Oh no, I wrote all the time.
Yeah. I missed what you. I didn't quite get the answer to Terry's question.
I think it gets back to Jan can't see his agenda.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
That was.
It was interesting. The Fitzgerald and Hemingway in their correspondence, Fitzgerald is always talking about how he wished he'd gone through a war, and speaks endlessly, writes endlessly. And Hemingway is always saying, well, he says two things. He says that, but he tries to calm Fitzgerald down on this wish. Do you think it's part of a major part of a possible sphere that a writer can go through to go to a war?
Well, this wasn't a war, really. It was over. And, yeah, people were being killed. A friend of mine, a photographer, was killed on the last day of the war. Yeah, those combat photographers, it's a different breed, man. That's why those are crazy boys. And that's where I got most of my help. Those were the opium smokers and
Good man would have caught that, but I didn't.
just disappeared. Yeah. Oh well.
Came in this direction.
Last of the hash. I never really had any fear over there, except when we'd go out and cover, the last battle of the war. Fuck, hiring a Jeep. I'd always go out with, Caputo and Laura and some of the photographers. Yeah, it was nothing like covering the war that Halberstam and Mel Brown and those guys covered. It was the last volleys of the war. And yeah, you could be killed.
But it was still a hugely dramatic event that you, in a way,
One of the best stories.
one of the best stories ever. And
I've never been on. I would not trade that story for.
there we are. That's what we were asking about.
Yeah, I'm not sure why, but in a way I felt like I was paying off a debt.
A debt too.
I'm not sure. But to be so influenced by the war for so long, having it so much a part of my life, so many decisions, and then not to know it, not to be in it.
Sort of a culminating factor.
Yeah.
Closing the circle.
Well, see, I was on my way to Saigon in 1971 when I stopped in San Francisco and we went to that big SIR conference, the editorial conference.
Of what? Of
Rolling Stone.
Rolling
Rolling
Stone. And that's where I made the argument that Rolling Stone should get into politics. I just started working for them, writing for them. I guess I developed a sudden kind of influence. And in San Francisco, I went down to Big Sur, and this was a summit meeting of all the Rolling Stone editors, and the photograph was really kind of historic. I was making the argument that Rolling Stone should cover politics, and I made it pretty heatedly, but I think Jan was about the only person that even half agreed with me. you know, a lot of smart guys there. I thought it was insane.
I remember everybody who was an ambitious journalist thought they had to get to Vietnam because of their career. It was an important career station. Writers thought that too. People who were doing fiction. Bob Stone never thought it. Talked about it.
Yeah, it could have been something like that. I wasn't thinking of it in terms of career, well, because after the editorial conference, went on for about 3 days, and I made these passionate pitches to the group. One of these, they call them retreats now, I guess. But it was a big strategy conference. Where's the magazine going? Where are we going to take it? And at the end of that, I finally had to say, well, fuck you then. I'll cover it. I'll do it. Or somebody else maybe suggested that, well, if you're so fucking smart, why don't you go to Washington?
Or go to Vietnam? Was it going to go to what? Was it what was the political? Where was the arrow pointed at? Was it Washington or Vietnam?
Vietnam. I was on my way to Vietnam.
Yeah. I'll do it. Then I'll do it myself.
Yeah, cover national politics. So instead of going to Saigon, I had to come back here and move lock, stock, and barrel to Washington. Lease a house for a year. Take the dogs. Sandy was pregnant. And the only guy who would volunteer to help was Tim Krause. You know, the lowest guy on the totem pole. With a serious stutter. Almost a debilitating stutter. The Jan mocked all the time. Jan was extremely cruel to Krause, which made me take up for him all the more. And Krause was the only guy in the room. He'd never written anything longer than a 300-word rock and roll concert review. For Rolling Stone, he was out of the Boston Bureau, just a kid. And I said, all right, Jim, it's you and me. And I didn't know what I was going to do with him, or campaign for that matter. I figured it could be done. I think somebody else. So my mind is wandering here in all kind of directions, but yeah, Tim Krause is one of the really nice flowers of that time.
Wrote a great book.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was going to sort of be my California story. I realized I couldn't do it. It was just too much. So this is after I told him one night in Milwaukee that I was sick. Too sick to. He was going to write the sidebar, and I was going to write the main story as usual. And one night in the suite, I said, oh, Tim, well, I hate to tell you this, but you're going to have to write the main story this week. And I'm going to write the sidebar. And he panicked. And then I told Jan that. He called and berated me and Krause. Krause only stuttered when Jan bitched at him. By the end of the campaign, he barely stuttered at all. I would tell him, man, you got to stop that. We can't, it's not constructive. And he started, I'd say, come on, God damn it, spit it out.
It's easy for you to say.
Well, yeah, I was. But I was just treating him like he was malingering. And of course I knew he wasn't. And I recognized that stuttering was a problem. But boy, he got it down. And Jan beat on him until the end of the campaign. I guess maybe he still does. He wrote the Wisconsin story. I just push him a little bit. Well, let's get back to your thing with the Eva game. If you look at that story carefully, and if we want to, we will. Yeah, we probably should. Campaign trail.
Well, you just, you were...
Hang on, I want to finish this thought. Because, in terms of literal truth, levels of truth, all I said in print was that there were rumors in Milwaukee of that the candidate was getting a strange drug called Ibogaine. And the reason that came to my mind was that I was just reading the press release from Farm Chem Labs, and it happened to be on Ibogaine that week. And they had the symptoms. And it occurred to me that shit, that's just like Ed Muskie to me.
Whatever. Cheers up for no reason.
Yeah, I'm just looking for it here. Here we go. But I think in a lot of cases, this may be technical exoneration, but I think in almost every case, there's a tip-off that this is a fantasy.
How do you tip it off that it's a fantasy?
Well, let's see.
The AP played it as if it was straight.
Yeah,
You know,
that's what happened. The AP picked it up.
A supposed drug or something like that. It's like, relentlessly awful. We should have all been so embarrassed with you.
Well, but people, here he is, yeah. Well, let's see. Yeah, it knocked him out of the race.
No, you did.
Yeah.
With this idle game.
Yeah.
The next time, like, in a writer said this to me, he said, Terry, you realize what happened? I said, well, he said, well, Hunter just, put a presidential contender, out of the race.
Yeah, the front runner.
Did you vote for Hunter?
So I
Oh,
suppose
it's
this
huge.
this suggests the power of the journalist. And it was a made-up item?
No, not at all. And that's why I'm trying to find. I'm staring at it. I'm just trying to figure where to start.
There are problems with the story, George.
Well, not if you look at it carefully.
Well, we're doing now.
All right, let's see. This is an italics break from the previous scene.
I'd like to see how you introduce this notion.
Okay, I'm going on faith here. The most common known source of ibogaine. This is in a clear shift from the previous.
Huge from him weeping on the podium, right?
Well, he explained everything. Yeah. The most common known source of ibogaine is from the roots of the Tabernacle iboga, a shrub indigenous to West Africa. See, this came straight out of the Farm Chem. It says Laboratories, Palo Alto, California, indigenous to West Africa.
George.
As early as 1869, roots of TI, that's ibogaine, were reported effective in.
Is this
What?
from Rolling Stone? What you're reading now?
Yeah. And this is what he picks up. Oh, and suddenly I was famous for exposing the Freak 7. All right, as early as 1869, roots of TI were reported effective in combating sleep or fatigue and in maintaining alertness when ingested by African natives. Extracts of TI are used by natives while stalking game. It enables them to remain motionless for as long as 2 days while retaining mental alertness. It has been used for centuries by natives of Africa, Asia, and South America in conjunction with fetishistic and mythical ceremonies. In 1905, the gross effects of chewing large quantities of TI roots were described. Quote, soon his nerves get tense in an extraordinary way. An epileptic-like madness comes over him, during which he becomes unconscious and pronounces words which are interpreted by the older members of the group as having a prophetic meaning and to prove that the fetish has entered him. All right, I should go on here. It's important to get every plan. At the turn of the century, Ebola.
That Hunter chooses to suggest that the only way that the man can remain, keep on, is to be chewing ibogaine. You recall?
I understand that, but why did you, unless you did not really like the man from Maine, why did you pick this piece to stick just where it is?
Because it turned up in my mail on that day. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a terrifying thing to do. Have you ever had sort of vague regrets about that?
No.
Why not?
I had some about Humphrey, but not about
Muskie.
Right here now, so it goes on twice as long there, and
recall, of course, Muskie denying that he took ibuprofen.
Didn't do any good.
No, I mean, it's like
The
this
scene
is
has been
so
so.
raucously berserk that the guy who was like a senior senator from Maine goes on TV and denies that he's like addicted to a drug that no one has ever heard of. Ibogaine. He feels that it's important enough to say no. Ibogaine.
Well, they were so crazy after losing
Ibogaine
Florida.
in Hunter, I remember I was with him. I was thinking about it. It's like at the time, it's like
Well, here it
Well,
is.
surely the most powerful.
completely changed the campaign.
Have you ever struck a blow as
Blow as
divisive as
that?
that? My God. Destroying this man, destroying his reputation.
I've never claimed credit for it.
Hunter was the president. Hunter wanted Gary Hart in the White House.
No, but then it was McGovern, and I figured,
Excuse me, McGovern.
yeah, I don't think
Actually, I did too.
political journalism. I've never.
What's your language on it? Is it rumored? You say it's
Yeah, all right. Let's hear this now. All right, after the report comes off describing all the symptoms, the richness of the psychological experience, many are disturbed by lights or noises. Dr. Claudio Naranjo says I've been more impressed by the enduring effects resulting from Ibogaine than by those from sessions conducted with any other drug. Woo. Stand back. All right, paragraph to sentence back to Roman.
It is rumored.
Not much has been written about the Ibogaine effect as a serious factor in the presidential campaign. Wacko. But toward the end of the Wisconsin primary
Knocked
race...
out the man from Maine.
Oh, hang on. But toward the end of the Wisconsin primary race, about a week before the vote, word leaked out that some of Muskie's top advisors had called in a Brazilian doctor who was said to be treating the candidate with, quote, some kind of strange drug that nobody in the press corps had ever heard of. Word leaked out.
That's made up by you, right?
I heard it.
Running this magazine myself.
That's what we're talking about, the levels of truth here.
Okay. All right, in paragraph. It had been common knowledge for many weeks that Humphrey was using an exotic brand of speed known as Wallet. W-A-L-L-O-T. And it had long been whispered that Muskie was into something very heavy. But it was hard to take the talk seriously until I heard about the appearance of a mysterious Brazilian doctor. That was the key. I immediately recognized the Ibogaine effect.
You totally buried the lead.
Well, I'm just reading it. From Muskie's tearful breakdown on a flatbed truck in New Hampshire,
That's how you did it.
yeah, the delusions and altered thinking that characterized his campaign in Florida, and finally a condition of total rage, quote, that gripped him in Wisconsin. There was no doubt about it. The man from Maine had turned to massive doses of Ibogaine as a last resort.
It was about to break down in New Hampshire.
The only
Very
remaining...
possible word that suggests that it's
Well, hang on.
massive.
Yeah,
That's your only out is massive.
Well, hang on. There's no, the only remaining question was, quote, when did he start? Question mark. But nobody could answer this one, and I was not able to press the candidate himself for an answer because I was permanently barred from the Muskie campaign after that incident on the Sunshine Special in Florida.
I remember that. Remember the
Yeah.
boho on the Sunshine?
And that scene makes far more sense now than it did at the time. I had sworn, vengeance on the bastards for barring me from the campaign. And,
Wow, quite a blow you struck.
yeah.
Well, he made up a...
All right. Muskie has always taken pride in his ability to deal with hecklers. He has frequently challenged them, calling them up to the stage in front of big crowds, and then forcing the poor bastards to debate with him in the blaze of TV lights. Oh, God. But there was none of that in Florida. When the boohoo began grabbing at his legs and screaming for more gin, Big went all to pieces. Big Ed went all to pieces. Which gave rise to speculation among reporters familiar with his campaign style in 68 and 70 that Muskie was not himself. And boy, we can take this one to court. It was noted, among other things, that he had developed a tendency to roll his eyes wildly during TV interviews, that his thought patterns had become strangely fragmented, and that not even his closest advisors could predict when he might suddenly spiral off into babbling rages or neo-comatose funks. And it's quite logical. In retrospect, however, it is easy to see why Muskie fell apart on his
Actually,
platform.
you're watching this.
All right. Here, now we get into little even more details. And this is all true as far as I know. We can only speculate on this. He pointed pieces in Florida. Only speculate on this. Because those in a position to know have flatly refused to comment on rumors concerning the senator's disastrous experiments with Ibogaine.
That's a terrible lie. Oh my God.
I tried to find the Brazilian doctor on election night in Milwaukee, but by the time the polls closed, he was long gone.
Oh,
One of the hired bimbos in Milwaukee's Holiday Inn headquarters said a man with fresh welts on his head had been dragged out the side door and put on a bus to Chicago, but we were never able to confirm this.
that sort of moves from into a wonderful lunacy.
What was
God,
great
you just
was
go
in-
from truth to, you go from those levels go.